That's exactly what I think is that, because that's very interesting what you said before, by the way, of like you got people planted because these are all just like points, they're just addresses, not even point in time. So you have your network spread out
Right.
overall, and so you can coordinate back and forth. In fact, I'll bet you that's a good use. I think my buddy Eric Hecker said they got in Antarctica that
Now,
ice
the thing
cube.
about what Hecker said in Antarctica that, is relevant to your commentary just now on climate change is that even if there's no natural or let's say greenhouse gas caused climate change taking place,
Mhm.
we now have the technologies and the weaponry to artificially cause climate change,
Yeah.
to basically weave some narrative that it was on account of greenhouse gas emissions or whatever. We can produce natural disasters. And Lynn Buchanan, who you mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
told me that one of the things he sees happening over the next 20 years, using precognitive remote viewing, is he said that there would be a number of natural catastrophes that were actually artificially produced. And that this was going to be one means by which, the socio-political structure of the world would be radically transformed.
Yeah, well, I was in New York for 9/11, and I remember when people afterwards. Remember the blackout after
Okay.
9/11, and that was one of the cool, because in the 70s it was a goddamn nightmare, right? It was a people, every worst crime imaginable because it was like hell. This one was like a cool party, dude. It was one of the best nights I ever spent in New York. Was walking around during the blackout, everybody's hanging out, having a good time. Absolutely nothing going wrong. And because everybody's so traumatized from the thing that they just saw.
Right.
And I didn't know trauma-based mind control is a term back then, but now I understand why, when people who are like, why would we be going to Iraq, which is a great point that I couldn't have heard it.
Yeah.
They're like, shut up. That's why. I didn't know there was a Tower 7. I heard Tower 7. I don't know what the fuck I thought, but I didn't know there were 3 buildings that fell. I live there. I didn't know that. And I didn't want to look into it. I didn't care to look into it at all. That's one of the very effective, I'm not very smart, but you can't fool me for ever with the same thing. Like 20 years in, I start to get hip to it. I don't understand why other people wouldn't, and I chalk it up to mind control.
Yep, absolutely. I had a teacher who he was my first philosophy teacher in my last year of high school. I went to the high school where Epstein used to teach.
Oh, yeah, I meant to ask about it, so I'm glad you brought it up.
School. And so it was a kind of elite high school, and I had this great philosophy teacher who was actually a professor at NYU. He just happened to have this side gig at my high school. And he was my mentor all through my college years and my master's degree too.